Subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon for the latest film interviews, features, and recommendations on the movies that matter. Abhishek, it's good to see you, Abhishek. How are you doing? What's been up? I know that you've been dubbing recently, so you've been stepping out. Does that make you a little bit nervous?
Well, first of all, I'm doing very well by the grace of God. Thank you very much. And everybody at home is healthy, which is, I think, of most importance. Yes, I've been stepping out to dub the English version of my web show, Breathe. That's coming out on the 10th of July. So we have a deadline. So as soon as the government gave us permission to resume work at a depleted capacity, so it's very weird, Rajiv, to go to work, and especially a dubbing studio where there are only two people, where there's the sound recordist and the director, and you go and you sanitize your mic and your notes, and you're wearing your gloves and your mask, and then you only remove your mask when you're actually voicing. So it's very different. It takes a bit of getting used to, but somewhere I think you have to roll with the times and understand that this is the new normal. Am I nervous? Personally, no. Personally, no, not at all. I'm more concerned about the family.
Yeah.
More concerned about coming back to the family, and yeah, I just hope nothing but all the precautions are being taken. We have taken all the precautions at home as well. We have a complete sanitization booth. You come in, whatever clothes you're wearing, you discard them and put them for the wash. Obviously, washing your hands and sterilizing and having a shower as soon as you're back. So you try and do whatever best you can. My entire family, by the grace of God, is at home with me. I have two parents, 72 and 78, so I'm most concerned about them. I have an 8-year-old daughter. So there are a lot of sensitive age groups over there. So I'm more nervous for them, but on a slightly different note, a bit happy to get back to work as well.
Of course, of course. Abhishek, it's going to be 20 years since you joined the movies. Next week, actually, on the 30th of June, is when 20 years ago, in the year 2000, your first film, Refugee, came out in the cinemas. Abhishek, it's, of course, you were a newcomer who was making his debut, but you weren't just any newcomer. You were Amitabh Bachchan's son making his acting debut, which of course is a great privilege, but of course it had to have come with some pressure. Do you remember what you were like on that day when the movie came out? Because I would imagine that by then the premieres and the previews had started happening already. What were you like on that day?
Vividly, Rajiv. We started shooting Refugee in the latter half of 1998. And I remember it was ready for release. Leading up to the release, I was actually in Manali shooting another film of mine called Shararat. And I remember Gurudev Bhalla, who was my producer director, very graciously agreed to allow me to go back for the premiere. In those days, promotions weren't as rampant as they are today. Although I have to admit, I think Bebo and I were the first actors who actually started this, city visits and all that. Because in those days, to promote the music, we had traveled all across the length and breadth of India with JP Saab to promote Refugee. And I don't remember many films or any film doing that before. So after having done that, I went off to Manali where I was shooting, and Guru very, very, very graciously allowed me to come back. And I remember reaching Mumbai the day before the premiere. So the premiere was on the 29th. And on 28th morning, I reached, and 28th night is when JP Saab told my father that he was going to hold a special preview for the cast and their families. So there was obviously Bebo's family, my family, and Anna and Jagu Dada and everybody else, Anupam uncle, and the entire star cast. And we saw it in this one single screen, very small, newly done up multiplex / single screen theater in Mahim called Star City. And it was brand new, and it was the entire theater. We went there around 10, 11 at night. And I remember driving there. My father used to travel in this very famous bus in those days. It was a Toyota DCM bus. So I remember going there with my immediate family. Went, saw the film, I remember sitting right next to Bebo throughout the film, and we were literally clawing each other because we were so nervous. And I remember it finished in the middle of the night, and obviously everybody was very quiet, everybody was very emotional. Not much was exchanged. I remember touching JP Saab's feet and taking his blessings and driving back in pin drop silence, which at which point of time I started panicking because I'm like, my parents haven't said anything. But when we got back home, my mother, being my mother, was obviously overcome with emotion. I think for her, it was more to see a transition of her baby into, a man.
Right.
My father was his stoic, quiet self. And somewhere I feel relieved. I'm not sure if he was relieved because of my work or he was just relieved that, okay, now there's nothing we can do. Now
Right.
the audience is going to decide, so there's no point panicking. And the next day, I remember I didn't sleep all night, chatting with friends over the phone, went to sleep, slept for a couple of hours, woke up, had my meal. We got ready because there was the premiere that evening at the Liberty Cinema in town. So
Mhm.
you had to then obviously, embark on this journey from Juhu to
Correct.
all the way
It's
to
a
a Liberty
trek.
Theatre. And when we reached around, I would say very close to Pedder Road,
Mhm.
I remember getting frantic calls from Bindia Man.
Right.
So I said, wait, we're not late, we Bachchans are fairly prompt at our
Correct.
timing. So I was like, no, we're good, half an hour ahead of schedule. I said, oh my God, what's happened? And I called her back. Um, and she said that, look, there's been a slight issue and JP Saab is held up in the office. If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to say anything wrong, but I think there was a raid that had happened at his office. And he came on the phone and he was his customary cool. JP Saab is the ultimate cool guy. Unless he's on the set and he's incensed about something, he's very, chilled out, beta, ye, this. I'm stuck here. I'll come as soon as you start the premiere. And I was like, what? Wait, me start? It's my premiere, How can I start the premiere? There are going to be all these people. And I remember JP Saab had called all the industry. And as far as I knew, a lot of people were showing up. Anyway, so that's when the sweating started. I still remember I was wearing a single-breasted tuxedo with a black tie, which I had got made for my graduation. It was the only one I had many years before. And I remember reaching Liberty, driving up to the gate, and then from the gate to the 4 steps to the entrance of the cinema is what I call remembering a gauntlet. It was just people. I mean, there were people on the streets. Obviously, there were a lot of film stars there. So, as in those days, the premieres would be lined with,
Mm.
with all the fans. And I remember stepping out of the car um, just after my father. So, obviously, the euphoria for my father was still there. I'm not so sure that people recognized who I was or anything. And I remember just looking down that corridor, and there was media on each side. And the media wasn't like what we have today in red carpets. They were predominantly photographers.
Right.
Um, and I remember walking through it and saying, okay, this is it. This is what you've waited your entire life for. And I remember I finished and I climbed those 4 steps to the main entrance to Liberty, and Yash Uncle was standing there. He had just arrived, Mr. Yash Chopra. So obviously I touched his feet, took his blessings. Now I was born in front of him. I've grown up in his household. Adi and Uday are some of my dearest friends, and they're family for me. And obviously they'd come there to give their blessings. Um, and I remember touching his feet, and he hugged me, and he said something which I've never forgotten. He spoke to me in Hindi. I'll say it in English over here. And he said, "Just remember that your father brought you till here. But the minute you take a step into that cinema and that show gets over, you have to walk out on your own 2 feet. Because if you're not able to, you won't get a chance tomorrow morning." I
Mm.
said, "Thank you, Yash Uncle. I really appreciate you being here." I remember sitting, everybody, in premieres, as you remember, Rajiv, the star cast and all their friends and family are seated in the
It's in the
stalls.
stalls. That's right.
Yeah, in the stalls. And I was in the upper stall. And I remember Shahrukh and Gauri were right behind me. Ajay was in front of me. And Ajay was the distributor of the film as well. And I remember Bebo and me standing at the back till the show started. And once it started, about 10 minutes into it, I think it was after my introduction that we both went and sat down. And I remember seeing JP Saab come in about 15, 20 minutes into the film. And after that, it's a bit hazy. Just before the interval, Ajay turned around and said, "Come out." He came out and he said, "I just want to tell you I'm your distributor. I'm also your elder brother, but I'll talk to you about your performance later when I see the film. I'm not going to see the whole film, but I want to tell you that it's going to take a huge opening, if not the biggest till date. And congratulations on a success. And now work hard." And he said, "Now I'm leaving." I said, "Okay." And that's customary, Ajay, with me. I remember the show finished, and obviously a lot of hugs, a lot of good wishes, and everybody moved to the Oberoi Hotel, where in the Regal room there was a after party, and JP Saab cut a cake, and then the revelry started, which ended at around 6:30 in the morning. And the less we talk about our state at that point of time, the better. But I remember Goldie, Sikandar, and I helped bring down the decorations from the Regal room because we were the last people there. I just didn't want to go. I was so happy. And I had a flight in a few hours because that night or the next morning, I was going back to Manali. I think it was the next morning. But I remember after doing that, we were driving back, and suddenly I said, "You know what? I need to do something that's a bit naughty, but I have to do it, guys." Now, Sikandar is like my baby brother, so he's going to be game for whatever I do. Goldie is the elder one, so he's like, "No, no, no, let's not do it." I said, "No, nothing like that." And I remember driving to Liberty, and outside the cinema, there was this cutout of my character, Refugee, my hands like this with the guns. And I said, "I have to take this as a memento." They're like, "Are you mad? How can we take this?" And I remember, and I'm probably going to get into trouble for this now, because suddenly the cinema owner is going to be like, "So that's where it went." And I remember going and dislodging that cutout, which is about 6 feet tall.
You stole that.
Yes. I said, "I have to have something for my premiere." And it didn't fit in my car. I used to have a Honda City. It didn't fit in the car. So I remember putting it on the roof of the car, and Sikandar, Goldie, and I sitting on the ledge of the windows, one hand inside holding the bar, and the other hand making sure this thing doesn't fly off while we drove really slowly. And guess what? It starts raining. Now, at that point of time, being a filmy kid, you don't know if you should think, "Oh my God, it's raining, it's God's blessing," or "Oh my God, my poster is getting ruined." But somehow we managed to make it back to Jew. And the next time you come to my office, I will show it to you. I still have it. It's right there. I can see it. I still have it. And it's just my memory. And, I'm sorry to the Liberty exhibitors. I mean, I'm willing to compensate you for it. I'm really sorry. But that's what it was. And it was an amazing night, and I remember feeling above anything else. I just remember feeling so, so blessed, to have so many well-wishers, to have so many people come there and just genuinely wish you all the best. Now, whether they were wishing me the best because they were happy for me or they just felt that I'm really going to need it, I mean, that's debatable. But it was a wonderful, wonderful occasion filled with so much emotion.
I remember, Abhishek, I think 2 years ago, we were recording that podcast, and you told us how you always had it inside you. You always sort of knew that you wanted to be an actor, but it wasn't until you were at university in Boston, and you watched Dead Man Walking, Sean Penn's film, and there was a specific scene, I think you said. It wasn't until you watched that you were finally able to muster the courage to actually say the words, "I want to become an actor." What was it about that film or that performance that gave you that that motivated you in that way to kind of own up to what you wanted to do?
So obviously, for whoever's seen Dead Man Walking, it was directed by Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
And had a magical background score by Nusrat Saab, actually. And there was a scene in the climax when they're taking Sean Penn to be executed. And as soon as he comes out of his cell, he's just broken down for the first time. Before that with Susan Sarandon, having admitted for the first time in the film that it was him, that he did it. And to face his guilt is something where he truly became ashamed. And I thought that was such a human moment for such a monster. And I thought, wow, what a nice way to look at it. Having played this character as a monster throughout, who's not affected, is cold, to show that human side. And that was further compounded as soon as he walks out. I think the executioner says, just announces, as they traditionally do, dead man walking. And as soon as he says dead man walking, Sean Penn just collapses. He can't walk. And I just remember that moment very vividly. It really touched me. And at that point of time, I had actually already informed my parents that this was my desire. But that was the point that I knew, I think once you first come over the shyness or the awkwardness of admitting that you want to join the films, especially if it's a family business, you're still trying to skirt the issue. Yeah, I want to do it, but I'm going to do this first, and I'll finish my education, and I'll do this, and I have this safety net. And you're trying to be practical about it. And I think maybe that was the first time I realized that you can't be practical about this decision. It has to be an emotional decision, and it has to be a decision in which you go all in. It's all or nothing. There's no safety net. In the words of Mr. Nolan in Dark Knight Rises, there's no rope.
Right.
It's do or die. And that was the moment when I realized that. And that's when I decided that it's either this or nothing else. And if I don't have that kind of passion and dedication and resilience, then it's not going to happen. So that was the one moment where I knew it's either this or nothing else. I don't want a backup plan of a businessman. I don't want a backup plan of this or a degree or whatever. This is all I want to do.
Abhishek, after Refugee, which came out in 2000, the next few years were a bit rocky, weren't they? You made some interesting choices, but it wasn't until the year that both Yuva and Dhoom came out, which I think was 4 years later, that you had your first sort of critical and commercial hit.
Yes, absolutely.
What was that? What were those 4 years like, Abhishek?
Hell.
Yeah, been through the fire.
Firstly, I just think it's correct to say, Rajeev, that everybody has their own journey.
Of course.
Everybody goes through what they have to go through, and we should be nobody to judge somebody else's journey. I've never liked to, first of all, look back and lament, because there's also a lot to be appreciative about. I have immense respect for any actor who features in a film, no matter what capacity, whether you're, the main lead or you're a junior artist. And I say that after having made over, I think, 60 to 70 films, witnessing the film industry for the last 44 years. I say that because it takes a lot of heart, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm not trying to be dramatic. It's very true. This profession is very demanding, and everybody deals with it in their own way. So who am I to go and say, oh, look at me, I had a really tough time? According to me, yes, at that point in time, because I was going through it, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to cope with. It was very difficult to confront. But at the same time, like I said, I was so blessed that I actually got the chance to be part of even one film. I mean, that's the dream of millions of people. So should I be complaining about, my so many films didn't work? Whereas there could be somebody there saying, buddy, you still got to make those many films. I'm not even getting the chance to make one film. But since you've asked me this specific question, yes, it was hell. It was very tough. I don't think anybody's out there to make a film that doesn't work. You want to make good films. You set out to make good films. You set out to make hit films. And that's very important, Rajeev. I'm from this industry. This is, I feel very protective about this industry. This is my family business. This films and the audiences have given my family everything that we have today. So I'm very, very aware of that fact. And I respect it greatly. And there's nothing more important. So yes, it was very tough. It was very demanding. Failing on a public platform is never a nice thing for anybody. And there are going to be people who are going to enjoy it. You might deserve it. Today, when I look back, I feel somewhere that, no, I don't think I was at the best that I should have been. Maybe I can say that in retrospect today, because after my experience and having learned so much more, I feel I could have been better. At that point, I was giving my best, but obviously my best wasn't good enough. And that's never a nice thing for anybody to be confronted by that your best is never good enough or you're not good enough. So it was very difficult. So when Yuva came out and I, for the first time, started getting positive reviews, more than happiness, it was more about relief that, phew, I can do it. So
But had
yeah, I
you
think
done something differently? I mean, why was that the one that broke out? Why was that the one that people loved you in? Did you do something differently? Was it a change in your approach?
I think the timing was right, Rajiv. Um, I feel now, and I review my work regularly. I feel there was a huge amount of awkwardness in my performances till then. I used to hold back a lot. I wasn't very comfortable doing emotional scenes for whatever reason. Um, there was a general awkwardness, which at that point in time, when say a critic would point it out, I didn't appreciate because I'm like, no, hello, I'm trying my best.
Right.
That's when you have to deal with the fact at a very young age that your best isn't good enough and you need to become even better. So I used, the pointers that the critics used to write about me as a roadmap of how to improve. Um, I think the first film where I really felt I opened up and became a bit more relaxed in front of the camera was actually Om Jai Jagdish,
Hmm.
because it was directed by Mr. Anupam Kher, who was one of my acting coaches. And he has known me since I was a child. So he really knew how to push the right buttons and help me feel secure enough to bare my soul. That's where it started. After that, I really feel that Nach helped me a lot.
Hmm.
Having worked with Ramu, who's just an unbelievable director, and the fact that he had the faith and the belief in me as an actor to say, okay, you do what you have to do. You take your time. I'm not going to over direct you. He gave me that freedom. So that instilled a lot more confidence. The film didn't do well, but even if you see it today, it doesn't seem dated in its performances.
Yeah.
Um, it still holds a bit of currency today. And then obviously, by the time money came around, he gave me a role which I didn't have a choice but to be very uninhibited,
Right.
let loose the shackles, because there was nothing about Lallan Singh which was guarded.
Correct.
Everything about him was an open book. He was wild. He was almost like an animal by the end of the film. So there's nothing I couldn't do anything but that. I think another part was also that I think somewhere as a performer and as an actor, my back was against the wall. I was in the corner because nothing seemed to be working the way I wanted. So when your back is against the corner, you're going to come out punching. And that's what I did. I just said, okay, to hell with it now. It doesn't matter who I am, whose kid I am. I can't be bothered about these trivial things. I have to get out there and just do my job, because at the end of the day, that's all that counts. And I just came out all guns blazing, whatever I had, and just hoped that, oh, let's hope this clicks. And they appreciated it.
Right. When I think of my favorite performances of yours, I think of Yuva, of course. I think of Guru. I'm a big fan of Delhi 6, of what you did in that film. I think that I thought you were really good in that. I don't think you get enough credit for that one. And of course, Man Marziyan. What is the work of yours that you're most proud of, Abhishek?
As I spoke to you before, now that I'm doing this series on my Instagram about
Mm-hmm.
my road to 20, it's given me so much time to reflect and think about my work, think about the evolution of the actor in me, think about, most importantly, about how much more improvement there is left to be done. And there's certain films of mine which a lot of people speak about, and I must admit it's very difficult at times when you hear so much love. It's very difficult to not accept it,
Yeah.
and to say no. But I have to say this in complete humility. Sitting where I am today, and not just physically, but I'm talking about as an actor, um, I feel I can do a better job in each and every one of them, and I feel I should have done a better job in each and every one of them. And the solace I take away from that thought process is, okay, that means I'm continuously improving.
Yeah.
I'm finding better ways. So that's the one silver lining. It's a bit sad that I don't have that one film to say, yeah, I was awesome in that film. It's wonderful that the well-wishers and some of the fans say, oh no, we like this. I mean, obviously, Guru is one film that a lot of people obviously talk about, and there's so many, but I just feel when I watch, and I watched Guru, I think about 4 or 5 days ago again,
Mm.
and I see a lot of flaws. I wish I could go back and do those films again. So personally, and I say this with complete humility, I genuinely don't say, oh yeah, I nailed it in that one. I I can maybe say, yeah, I enjoyed, or maybe I was very confident when I performed a particular role.
Mm.
Confident in the sense that, okay, I'm giving it my best. I'm comfortable in
Yeah.
the skin of this character. So yes, Delhi Six for one was definitely something that I was very comfortable doing, because the one thing Rakesh expected was us not to perform. He wanted us just to inhabit the character, and I love that. There are different kinds of films that we make in India.
Mm.
There are different kinds of cinema that require vastly different styles of performance, and you're truly only a successful and true superstar if you can traverse all those different genres and do them all brilliantly.
True.
Um, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but if we're going to be masters of just one genre, then you're in the wrong industry, because our country demands you to be good in a Manmohan Desai film, in a Prakash Mehra film, in a Ramesh Sippy film, in a Yash Chopra
Correct.
film, as well as a Rishikesh Mukherjee film. Um, and yeah, I only know one guy who's managed it so far. But that's what our industry is, and that's the beauty of our films. An actor has the choice to be able to do, for example, to do a Guru,
Right.
and follow it up next with the Jhoom Barabar Jhoom, which are completely different.
Right.
And that's the fun of it. But you have to be able to ace it and convince your audience that you're able to do it in all of them. So it's thinking about all these things. I feel there's certain films I was comfortable doing. There were certain films I was uncomfortable about the style of performance I might have to do, because that might not come naturally to me. But I
Mm.
had to do, and I'm glad those films worked. I mean, I remember Shad um, really used to, ride me during Bunty or Bubbly, because he wanted a level of energy which didn't come naturally to me. You
Right.
know, um, Rakesh's character, which is Bunty's character's energy level is up here, and I always
Mm.
like to play it a bit down here. And to continuously push that energy level up was a huge, was very taxing for me. But I understood what Shad was trying to do. Similar thing happened when I did Bol Bachchan. I remember Rohit and Ajay, actually, after about a week into the shooting, we were shooting in Jaipur. They said, "Look, we need to talk," because we weren't getting that one scene.
Mm.
And I panicked. I said, "Oh God, these guys are going to replace me in the film," because you're not. I wasn't able to get it, and you could see at some point in time there was a bit of polite frustration creeping in on the unit's side. And I
Mm.
remember Rohit sat me down. We went up to Ajay's room in the hotel, and he sat me down. He said, "Look, we need to rehearse, because this is not what I want." So I said, "Okay, if you explain to me, I'll work at it." He said, "Look, I get your sense of humor, and your comic timing is very sarcastic. It's very deadpan." Um, and today I realize it's almost very British in that sense, because that was the upbringing that I had, being in boarding school. He said, "So your energy of your comedy is very low." And he said, "It's brilliant. But my film's energy is up here. It's more
Right.
slapstick. If you're not going to be at this level and you're going to perform here, you're going to be the odd one out. And because you're
Mm.
the odd one out, they're going to say you're not doing a good job." This is the world of Rohit Shetty films. You have to come into that world. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And that just made so much sense to me. And I said, you know what? I have to now just lean completely on Rohit, and said that, okay, let's do it your way. And I went out there and just, again, it doesn't come naturally to me to be that hyper, and did it. And it worked brilliantly. And I went to Rohit. I said, "Thank you very much. I needed that one cattle prod
Right.
to wake up." So there are performances which come to you naturally, the performances that don't come to you naturally. But having gone back, I can think of all of them that I can improve.
Right. You took some time off a few years ago, and that's, I think that was just before Manmarziyan came out.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to pause and reflect. Abhishek, what did that do? Why was that time off necessary?
I'd become very comfortable, Rajiv. in the work I was doing, in the money that I was making, and the lack of responsibility that I had um, as an actor towards my films. Um, I was part of huge ensemble casts, which are great fun to be a part of. And I never want to stop doing that. I was part of huge budgeted films in which the majority of the responsibility of delivering a hit was on another actor or actress. I was very happy playing second fiddle, making loads of money, and giving 100 crore, 200 crore, 300 crore hits. And what happens is you start becoming complacent when you're in a place of comfort. Like I said, this profession is very demanding, and it demands a lot. And above all, it demands sacrifice. It's about, there is a transaction in life, Rajiv. You're not going to get anything if you don't give anything. For a lot of superbly talented actors, if you actually see, and it's very interesting, if you notice, I don't know any superstar in the Hindi firmament that doesn't have some sort of a health problem. They've compromised on their personal well-being in order to do their job the way it's required. Be it a physical problem. I mean, you take somebody like, say, Akshay, who has a very bad back problem. You take somebody like Shah Rukh, or you take my father. Every one of them they've had to compromise on something, be it a lifestyle, be it life in some aspect of comfort. But that's what this job and this profession demands of you. When you don't have that, you're very comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you stop growing as a creative person. And that's what was happening to me. And also on a practical sense, like I said, I was making great money. I was being part of super hit films. People were loving me. But I knew that another 2, 3 more films like this, and people are going to be like, okay, why do we need this guy? Because he's not value adding to our work. So they look for somebody else. So what am I doing to become the USP of a film? What am I providing or bringing to the table creatively that my directors cannot do without? And the answer was nothing. So I didn't decide on taking 2 years off. I said, no, I just need to stop. I need to just go sort my head out, decide what I want to do, but more importantly, what I don't want to do. And then come back and try and achieve those goals. And the goal cannot be as lofty as, oh, I want to be the #1 star in the country, which secretly everybody wants to be. And they're just being humble or falsely humble or lying if they say no. We all have aspirations for that. There's a huge reality check and everybody's aware of that. But that is a lofty dream. It can't be something as lofty as that. It has to be something which is achievable. It has to be a short-term goal, and try and achieve it inch by inch. So I'm not going to live in a fool's paradise to think that, oh, okay, I'm going to come and just make 10 super hit films in a row. No, one film at a time, Friday to Friday, be a bit more methodic about it. But more importantly, doing the work that makes you proud and really gives you sleepless nights, and get back into that zone. So that's what I did. After I was ready with that, then obviously you start going out there and trying to put a film together, which is not easy, especially in today's day and age where it's become so professional and it's become even more of a business. So to get a film together was not happening. I'll be very honest with you. There was part discussion in the industry that, oh, he's retired. Yeah. There was another discussion saying, oh, he's gone into sports, he doesn't care. There was talk saying, oh, what does he need? He's set in life and he doesn't need it. So there's no hunger. So there were all these attitudes, which was fine. And I still had to do what I had to do. And I was still trying to get a film or get a film made. There were a lot of films that I developed under my banner. That's when my management came to me and said, why don't you meet Anand Al Rai? He's got this film he wants to talk to you about. And that's when Anand came to me and offered me Man Marziya. And that's how Man Marziya happened. And then after that, by the grace of God, it's been nonstop. Yeah. I know it's been, Man Marziya came out in September 2018, it's 2020, but since since the release of Man Marzi, I've been shooting nonstop. I
Right.
shot Anurag Basu's Ludo. Then I got on to Breathe, which is my web series, which took a lot of time. Then I've 98% completed The Big Bull, and I've what 90% completed Bob Biswas. Both of them are stuck because of this lockdown that we have. So it's been nonstop work, and so I have almost 5 projects which are ready for release, just about, and there are another 4 or 5 that are lined up, which I will start working as soon as we're allowed to get back to work. And now it's all guns blazing and no looking back.
We tend to ask this question to actresses, but the truth is it's equally applicable to the male actors. I want to ask you, Abhishek, when you became a parent 8 years ago, did that change anything in you as an actor? Did you find your choices? Did you find that you were drawn to different things, different kind of material? Did it change anything in you as an actor?
It's changed one thing, is that I know there's certain kind of films or scenes that I'm not comfortable doing anymore, because I would not want to do anything in which my daughter would feel uncomfortable, or something that she'd question me about, saying, hey, what's going on here? That's for me personally, and I'm thankful for it, because as it is very awkward doing romantic scenes. I get very awkward. So I'm not very comfortable doing any intimate scenes, and I rather not. And I say that to my directors before signing on to the film, that look, if there is a certain scene which has a lot of intimacy, physical intimacy, that's something I'm not willing to do. So you have a choice. I mean, if you can do without it, which as of now, 100% of the time they can do without.
Right.
If they say, no, this is integral to forwarding my storytelling, and they really can't wrap their heads around doing it in another differently aesthetic way, then I said, look, you have the choice. I'm very happy to bow out, but this is something I'm not comfortable doing.
Have you ever lost a film because of that?
Yes. Yeah. And that's fine.
Sure.
And there are no regrets, because I had a point of view, a creative point of view, and they have, and the producer and director have a creative point of view, and they don't want to compromise on that, and I completely respect that. And it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Breathe, of course, the second season of Breathe comes out on the 10th of July, I think is what they've announced. Abhishek, what was different in terms of pace, in terms of approach? What surprised you about doing a show that was different from doing a movie?
In my head, I thought it's going to be a complete sea change to what I'm used to.
Right.
They actually shot Breathe like they would shoot a film. From the kind of cameras to the lights to everything. Everything about it is like making a film. Breathe is a 12-episode series, and they're almost 50 to 1 hour episodes. So in a sense, I've actually made 4 or 5 films over the last 9 months. The only difference I feel between a web series is traditionally what I would have been given 2.5 hours to achieve in terms of a characteristic or a character arc. I now have 12 hours to do that. So you can really sink your teeth into it. You get into the sub layers and the subtext of your characterization. But that's why I would choose a web series if it provided me with a character which has those kind of layers, or had that kind of depth that you could get into. If I am going to choose to do a web series in which my characterization is more superficial and we're only scratching the surface, then it's going to be disastrous. Then I'd much rather make a film for it. Also, I'd much rather, this is personally my view, do work on a streaming platform that you possibly would not be able to do for cinema.
Right.
The kind of content in general that I see coming out on streaming platforms is, I hate the word, but I mean, it's easy to, it is a bit more edgier than what our audiences accept in cinema. And that happens from the fact that I think watching a series or consuming content on an OTT platform is more of a personal experience. In India, going to the movies is a family outing or a friend's
Yeah.
outing. So it's a group activity, but this is more intimate. This is more one-on-one. So you're comfortable consuming content which traditionally you might not in the cinema hall. I think the cinema is more family friendly. In this, you can push the envelope a bit. And I don't mean by just using bad language or being explicit.
Right.
Even just about a character or getting to, really getting to the depths of certain characters. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Abhishek, Ludo and the Big Bull. Ludo is entirely complete. The Big Bull is almost complete, and I know that
Yes.
no official announcement has been made, but there has been some talk that these films may go straight to streaming, as a lot of other films that are complete at this stage will. As someone who's grown up around the movies, as someone who's grown up at attending premieres and watching previews on big screens, is there a little part of you that feels a little sad about this?
We dream in cinema.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, I don't know much that gives me greater happiness than buying a ticket and going to a concession stand, buying that popcorn, putting the melted butter on it, buying your candies and your soft drink and your samosa, going and sitting in a cinema hall, watching the previews and trying to guess the preview by just the logo of the production house.
Yeah.
Watching the preview, whistling, clapping about the anticipation, and then when the credits roll, nowadays we have about 15 minutes of thank yous, I know.
Correct.
Before. And if you can stay awake through that, then whistling and clapping when the artist names come up, and when the opening scene happens, and when the introduction of the hero and the heroine happen, and then the emotion. I don't know much that gives me greater joy than that. For me, watching a movie in the cinema is as great as a religious experience. It's unbelievable. There's not much that can outdo that, and I know you'll second that emotion.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
sitting in that cinema hall and watching
Correct.
a movie, there's nothing. Is looking up at that screen with those huge actors. There's nothing like it. So we all dream like that, but there's also a reality, and the reality is currently cinemas are shut. Um, I don't know, Rajiv, if I was the producer of these films, how I would have reacted. I'm not the producer of Ludo and the Big Bull. There is a financial decision that needs to be taken. There is business that needs to happen. And whatever the producers decide is something I will have to go with, because that will be taken, I hope, in the best interest of the movie.
Right.
Um, if the cinemas were open, would this be a discussion? I don't think it would be a discussion. But we are in the situation and at the crossroads that we are at, and this is a discussion that needs to happen. And from a producer's point of view, and also selfishly, if I may say, as an actor's point of view, if there is another medium or another outlet where our audiences can get to see the film, and if that outlet happens to be from the safety of their home, so they're not compromising theirs or their loved one's safety, I don't think it's a bad option. Is it ideal? No, we love the cinema. Like I said, would this conversation be happening if the cinemas were open? I guarantee you not at all. But it is, and as long as my producers don't lose money and our audiences get to see our films, I'll take that. I think that's a good deal.
Finally, Abhishek, I remember that time you telling me, you were remembering that memory of being on the sets of, I think it was Silsila, where Uday Chopra, and you were, I think, 5, and you said Yash Chopra had got the fog machine for the first time, and y'all were just having so much fun with it, running through it like you were running in among the clouds. From being that kid on a movie set, you said, in fact, that how you wish now that you would have paid more attention to what was going on set, because you were on these great sets. To being an actor who's completed 20 years in the movies, these 20 years, Abhishek, does it feel like it's gone by in a flash, or is everything very vivid, and every obstacle, every milestone very clearly, embedded in the memory?
It's very vivid. It's viscerally vivid. But it's gone by in a flash. I was just thinking today that 20 years, my God, soon they're going to start calling me a veteran. I've already started noticing in the last two films, they call me Abhishek Ji, or the 80s would say sir. And I'm not used to that because I was always the baby on set.
Right.
You know, when I first started, I was the youngest kid on the set. So I've started noticing that. Um, my behavior obviously is the complete opposite because I am what I am. And um, but I remember I was just thinking that, you know, when I entered in the year 2000,
Mm.
a 20-year-old actor was somebody who debuted in 1980. So for me, it was somebody like Mr. Dutt,
Right.
Sanju sir, you know, Sunny Bhaiya and all had all come in the early 80s, 80, 81, 82. And these guys were like, you know, wow, these are really senior guys. So I'm thinking
Mm.
today that do people perceive me like I perceive these guys?
Right.
Will they speak to me like how I spoke to these people? You know, although the industry has become a lot more informal now.
Mm.
I mean, even when in 2000 when I came, I remember, you know, I was very close to Shah Rukh because I mean, I had a lot of interaction with him before I became an actor. And Shah Rukh, I think, was 8 years or 9 years old in the industry when I debuted,
Right.
and the respect for seniority at that point of time. And I look back and I say, wait, in 2009, a lot of these guys came and they didn't speak to me like that. So 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 I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I like it because I think there is an equality which is so wonderful,
Right.
and the seniority, rightly so, is about your talent, and that's nice. Although I have to say this, Rajiv, and I'm not trying to be too philosophical because, you know, I'm in
Mm.
a reflective mood. But the point is, I think it's a matter of great privilege if the audience gives you an opportunity to be in films for 20 years.
That's true.
And and I genuinely mean this, and I mean this for all my colleagues, my co-actors, my producers, directors, crew members. If you've managed to remain a, a busy or employed professional after 20 years, there's
Mm.
something you're doing which is right.
Right.
Count that blessing, be thankful for it, and wake up tomorrow and go and earn it all over again, because tomorrow morning it might not be there. But I think if you've managed to make 20 years, um, you owe yourself a slight pat on the back saying, okay, you made it so far. Not bad. You could have done
Right.
better, you can do better, but not bad. I think we also tend to ride ourselves a bit too harshly nowadays.
Right. Those are wise words to live by, Abhishek. This was great fun to sort of look back at your career, and I really feel like there's a lot more maturity and a lot more wisdom, philosophical, sort of reflections. All the best, Abhishek. All the best. I mean,
Thank
here's
you.
to the next 20. Thank you, Abhishek. All the best.
No,
Looking
thank
forward
you
to the
for
next
having me,
20.
Rajiv. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck. Be safe.
Thank you, Abhishek.